and stared at by this book about like, ha ha ha, you're reading all this other stuff besides me. So bored. I was so bored. I have no idea why I bought this. Hello, my name is Andrew. Welcome to my channel. We're gonna do another Unhaul today. I'm not sure how in depth I'm gonna go into all of these books, but I am actually gonna be moving soon, so I am planning on unhauling as many of these as possible so that I won't have to move them, because moving books is just a lot. There's a lot. Let's start it off here. There are a couple like entire series I'm getting rid of, which the first is going to be the Remnant Chronicles by Mary E. Pearson. I read the first book, gave it 4 stars. I actually really liked this. I read almost all of the second book, but never completely and entirely finished it. And then I never picked up the third book, and it's just been staring at my shelf. And I was trying really hard to get through all my physical TBR books, and I really wanted to get through them, but I'm just not excited about these. I'm not excited. I feel like so basically this whole series, like, you're following in the first book, you're following Laya, and she's being chased by a man who was sent by her own father to kill her, and then she's also being followed by this prince that she was supposed to marry. And like, this first book is really good, but I know how it ends, so I just don't see the benefit in rereading it, and I just didn't enjoy the characters enough to want to reread it all the time, because I definitely like to reread, but I just don't see this. It's definitely not, like, I read almost the entirety of the second book, like almost the whole entire second book, and I enjoyed it. Like, it's good. These are good. Someone else will enjoy this a lot more. I feel like this is definitely a series that, like, someone else will enjoy more. So let's pass it on. I don't have to keep feeling disappointed in myself for not finishing it. These are very interesting covers. This third book looks so much bigger because the first 2 are paperbacks. But yeah, this is a very interesting. I highly recommend the first book. The first book is very good, and I think I also spoiled myself with how the third book ends because I just wanted to know. And I don't know, I do think I want to read this. Like, I do kind of still want to read it, but I just don't want to read it as much as I want to read other stuff, so I can get it through the library, which I'm probably going to say a lot because I have an amazing library and I have no reason not to use it. Next up, another entire series I will be unhauling, the Grisha Trilogy by Leigh Bardugo. Ironically, I gave the first book 5 stars. I loved the first book. The second book, I think I gave it 4 stars originally, but I genuinely, all I remember about this entire second book is that it takes place like mostly on a boat, I think, and I love the way the second book ended. The way that the second book ended was very intriguing, plot-wise. And then I read the third book and I gave it 2 stars, and I just was so bored. I was so bored. I did not like the way this ended. Part of me wants to reread this maybe at some point, but I actually own all the audiobooks through Audible, which is the only place you can get these. There is no other place. You can't get these through the library, but I own all of them. So if I ever want to reread it, I can do it that way. This is definitely not an all-time favorite for me personally, so want to pass it on to somebody else. The TV show, love it. Love the TV show. I think even people that like these books agree that the show is better. So I will continue to watch the show, but this series was just very underwhelming. And it's also a high fantasy, which is a whole nother thing for me. I think that technically the Remnant Chronicles might also be a high fantasy, and I'm just trying to learn and accept myself that I'm just not going to enjoy high fantasy. I really want to like it. I want to like it, but when I actually read it, I don't like it. So I just have to accept it. This is YA high fantasy, some of the most, but I just found it boring. I'm not going to give up on high. It's a whole nother conversation. Okay, as far as this series is concerned, I'm done. I read it all, so you know. I actually also have a full entire spoiler-filled review of the whole trilogy. I don't even know what I said in that video, except I think I pretty much just said I was bored. And I actually just watched Hannah from A Clockwork Reader, like she reread the whole thing a couple months ago. And when she talks about it, the only things that she talks about are like Alina and the Darkling, or Alina and Mal, and like their dynamic. Like she doesn't talk anything about like the magic, the world building, the plot. Like, this is just romance in a fantasy setting. And it does have important messages as far as like, I don't want to spoil stuff for the people in this video. If you have, I will just say that I like the message. I just found the story boring. So that's that for me. This next one actually makes me really sad. It's Carry On by Rainbow Rowell. I love this cover and I really, really wanted to love this story. But I think someone I think Emma Book said this feels like a fantasy book written by a contemporary author, which that's exactly what it is. And you can feel it. You can feel that this is not written by someone who usually goes into the fan, like she's just, I also read Fangirl by her and I liked Fangirl, and Rainbow Rowell has her problems and that's fine, but I mean, it's not fine, but I didn't like the story. I'm going to unhaul it. Sorry. All right, another pretty popular one is going to be The Cruel Prince by Holly Black, which I did not technically finish, but what I did read was so boring. I'm sorry. I don't understand what the hype is with this. Nothing, and the only person that was mildly interesting or even somewhat had something to care about was the guy who was like Jude's mentor, and I can't even remember his name. I can't even remember anybody's name but Jude. This was just an entire story about Jude getting abused by a bunch of people who you couldn't even keep up with. And people say that like the third book, even people that love the first and second book are disappointed by the third book. So I just don't want to read a series with a bad conclusion. Like I'm used to series having amazing, like usually the conclusion is my favorite in the, well, I mean, so far, but I don't know what else to say about this, but I will not continue the series. I'm not sure I'm going to ever read anything by Holly Black ever again. I do kind of want to read, she has I think it's called White Cat. I might read that because it's like supernatural paranormal, which I'm learning is one of my favorite things ever. Supernatural, paranormal kind of stuff. So I'll read that maybe at some point. But I mean, you maybe could convince me to read this, but probably not, because I just really didn't like what I had read so far. And this is like her most popular, I think this is her most popular book. So I don't know. All right, next we have a book, Ties That Tether. I actually really enjoyed this book and I gave this 4 stars. I don't see myself ever rereading this book, and I would like other people to read it. And like I said, I'm moving. If I ever want to reread it, I can probably get it through the library at some point. But this was good. This was very good. There's actually I don't have any complaints about this story. There are some, personally, I had no complaints about this story. It was good. I'm just going to pass it on to other people. I don't want to have to move it. That's really all I have to say about that. Okay, next we have another series that for some reason, I don't know why, I bought the entire series. Legend Prodigy Champion by Marie Lu. This is a dystopian series. I am still pretty interested in this, but it's it's kind of like the Remnant Chronicles, where I just feel like it's staring me in the face, and there's just so many other series I'm more interested in reading, and I felt like having these on my shelf is like a constant like slap in the face of like, you look at these other series that you're not getting to and you could be reading it because you own it. I am almost a 100% audiobook reader anyways, so there's just no point in owning this physically. If I do listen to the books and I absolutely love them, I will repurchase them, but these are not a high priority for me, so they can go. This is a series that if someone really, really passionately comes in my comments about how I should not get rid of it, I might keep it. So maybe. Because I've heard really good things about Marie Lu in general, and I haven't read anything by her, but I want to. I don't know if I want to start with a whole series. I feel like I don't want to start an entire series. When it comes to authors, I'm going to try to like read but sometimes their series are better than their individual works. I don't know. Like I said, you can convince me in the comments if you want to try. All right, next up we have Red Queen, which I did read 125 pages of. I didn't super hate it, which lots of people seem to hate it. But most people either way, hate it or love it, seem to think the series declines over time. I'm just not interested in a series that gets worse. You know, this, I'm for sure going to get rid of the physical book, but if you love this book, you could convince me to listen to it. I'm pretty sure I can get through the library like most of these books. So I just was I found this to be very just okay. I didn't find anything, I couldn't even remember any of the characters' names. Like, I think there's a kind of interesting romance with like the Mora, what is her name? Mare, that's her name. There's a kind of interesting dynamic with her and like the 2 brothers. Maybe I would read it with my ears, but I'm not gonna keep the book. Okay, this one kind of goes with like the high fantasy thing, or like it's the Expanse. I have no idea why I bought this. I don't know why I bought this. I do like sci-fi. I like Doctor Who, and I can't think of what else I like that's sci-fi. But I know I like sci-fi, but I don't know if I like epic sci-fi, because I'm just gonna get rid of it. And this I don't know if you can tell like from the video how thick it is, but this is, oh, I also love like Inception, and I love Interstellar. I love Interstellar. If anybody comes in my comments and tells me that this has any similar vibes to Interstellar, then maybe I would consider keeping this. But for some reason, because this is blurred by George R.R. Martin, which I do actually own, this, and I'm not getting rid of it, because this is going to be another attempt at me in high fantasy, and I'm going to try, because I'm stubborn, and I'm going to force myself to like it because of how much I want to like it. But if this, I mean, it looks kind of like Interstellar. I don't know. Like I said, if this has Interstellar vibes, anything like that, sci-fi wise, but from what I understand, this is about like a bunch of warring space people, which I'm kind of interested in, but not as much as other stuff. Like that's kind of the theme here. Like these are things I'm interested in, but I'm not sure that I really want to own it. Like I'm not sure I'm going to like it that much. So it can go. All right. I only have 4 more, and I have not read any of them. So the next one is going to be The Hazelwood, which I'm pretty sure is narrated by Steve West. So definitely going to check out the audiobook for this if I read it. Nobody talks about this. This is not anybody's favorites of all time list. This doesn't seem to be anything, like all the people that I follow, who, like, it's so all over the place. I don't know what to think. I do like to read things for myself and formulate my own opinion on the story, and I mean, this has very pretty, like, end pages, but I'll get it through the library. I don't want to move it. I'm not inclined to pick it up. I want to read it, but just not anywhere near the level of other stuff that is on my radar. Next, we've got The Wicked Deep by Shay Earnshaw. This one, once again, it's just kind of mocking me on my shelf that I haven't gotten to it, and I'm tired of being mocked. I'm tired of being mocked and stared at by this book about like, ha ha ha, you're reading all this other stuff besides me. I don't want to read you. I don't hear amazing, fantastic things about you. You're beautiful. Like, you have an amazing cover. This bird situation, this is really cool. Like, this is such a cool cover, but I don't know if I'm gonna like the story. I know it's supernatural-ish, I believe. It's about a bunch of witches, like, killing somebody. This one is another one that maybe you could convince me to keep it, but I tried to be real, like, I tried to make the chopping block shallow. I don't know. I tried to unhaul as many books as possible because I really don't want to have to move a bunch of books. But maybe, look at how it's so reflective. I really do like that. This is such a good cover. If we were going to rate this on the cover, but that's not, you shouldn't judge a book by its cover. Like I said, you maybe could convince me to keep this if someone wants to come in my comments and tell me this is like their favorite book of all time. I don't think anybody really claims that this is their favorite. But man, I just can't get it. That is so pretty. All right, moving on. Just got 2 left. Okay, then we've got The Crown's Game by Evelyn Skye. This one, again, nobody really talks about this. I know this is only a duology, and I think this is also weirdly narrated by Steve West. So if you haven't listened to a book by Steve West, which I don't think I have either, listened to a full entire book narrated by him, but I have heard like samples, and I want to read everything that man narrates. So, you know, I'm probably just going to pick up the audiobook for this. We'll see if I love it or not. I feel like out of like this and The Hazelwood, I bought it on the same time, and I feel like I would like this more because I think this is about a magical competition, and I've read some magical competitions lately that are just so underwhelming. So let me know if this is a hit for you. But again, I just don't want to physically move it, so I will probably just get the audiobook because there's probably a chance I'll give it like 4 stars and then never think about it again. And I don't want books on my shelf that I never plan to reread. That's kind of like my standard to the point. Like, if I'm not going to reread the book, I don't see any point in owning it. Because if I ever want to talk about a book in a video, you can just you can just add it into the video. It's okay. It's all right. Okay, and then finally we have Falling Kingdoms by Morgan Rhodes. This is a high fantasy. Yes, I'm keeping Game of Thrones because I think it'll be better than this. I actually have read the first couple pages in Game of Thrones, and like, I was pretty intrigued. So, you know, but this just seems to have another bad trajectory series-wise. Like, it seems to get worse as the books progress. So that's just not an experience I want to sign up for. I want the books to get better and better and better. So I will be getting rid of this one also. maybe you could convince me to keep it, but I also just don't like, this is like a library copy that I got from, this is probably not gonna, I probably will get no money off of this, but I just don't want to move it. So if I do, I will probably listen to I don't know when. There's so many books I want to read. So this is just not one of them. This is not a priority. There's so many other books I'd rather read besides this one, blah, 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 blah. How many times can I say it? And if I want to read it, I can get it through the library. So bye. Okay, so this right here, not these. These are my faves. I love so many of these. But these, not these. This is more Cassandra Clare. Just ignore that. Love Cassandra Clare. Okay. I'm trash for Cassandra Clare. But these and these will be exiting the house. This is your last chance. Make the case. If any of these need to stay on my shelf, you cannot convince me to keep The Cruel Prince. And you cannot convince me to keep Carry On. And you cannot convince me to keep the Shadow and Bone trilogy. Those are for sure leaving. Just don't waste your energy. Don't waste your energy. But everything else, you maybe could convince me to keep. Maybe. Most likely not, but you know, state your claim and we'll see. No one's even gonna watch this video, but you know, what was that? Anyways, as always, I will leave my Instagram, Goodreads, and Twitter will all be in the description below. I would love it if you would follow me, talk to me about books, on all that good stuff. Hope you're having a good day, night, week, life, whatever. Bye!